Hello everyone and welcome to my channel Shaily's Education Center. Today in our modern history class, I will discuss about new revenue system of British India and their impact on the agrarian society. This is a very important question to all of you. The land revenue was collected up to 1772 by the two Naib Diwans. In 1769, supervisors were appointed to study the method of collecting the revenue. In 1772, under instructions from the Court of Directors, Warren Hastings removed the two Naib Diwans, Muhammad Reza Khan and Sitab Rai, and abolished their offices. The company stood forth as the Diwans and took upon itself the management of the revenue. In October 1772, a revenue board consisting of the governor and council was constituted at Calcutta. Assessment was made for a period of 5 years, lands being farmed out to highest bidder by public auction. Many of the zamindar became farmers of revenue. A collector and an Indian diwan was appointed in each district to supervise the revenue administration. The 5-year farming system impoverished the zamindar, farmers and riots, while the company also suffered serious losses. In November 1773, the collectors were removed and 5 provincial councils were set up for the collection of revenue. The headquarters of the provincial council were at Murshidabad, Burdwan, Dinajpur, Dhaka and Patna. A committee of revenue was established at Calcutta. The change did not improve matters and therefore the 5 years settlement was abolished in 1777. The company adopted the method of annual settlement preferably with the zamindar, which continued up to 1789. But its evil effects soon failed. As an experienced revenue servant put it, the fluctuations of the revenue have opened the largest field for abuses. In 1781, the provincial councils were abolished and European collectors returned to the districts with lesser powers. In Bengal, permanent settlement was introduced in 1793. In Uttar Pradesh, Mahalwari system introduced by company. In the greater area of the northwest comprising Awadh, the territories between the Ganges and the Yamuna, Delhi and Punjab, this settlement were made for a short period. In this system, the tenants possessed their records of right. The government also had the advantage of ascertaining the productivity of different kinds of lands from time to time. The revenue was fixed according to the capacity of the soil. Once the assessment was done, it continued for the full term of the settlement. The chief demerits of the system were the undue privilege enjoyed by the Lombarders, that is, powerful families of zamindar of the village revenue estate, and other village headmen, which they used for their own interest. While they took large areas of village land under their possession, the small tenants were left with little land and were often oppressed by the village headmen. In the Madras Presidency, a different system of settlement, the Rayatwari settlement, was adopted. Associated with the name of Sir Thomas Monro, acted as governor from 1820 to 1827, the settlement was made directly with the cultivators for a period of years, the standard being 30. By this system, a direct relationship was established between the government and the cultivator. This system increased the security of the cultivator, but it left the cultivator at the mercy of the heavy demand of the government officers. The most important defect of the system was that as long as the Rayat paid the revenue, he was the master of his land. But if he became a defaulter, the government could take over his land into its direct possession. Impact. The main motive force behind the introduction of the above system of revenue by the British was to augment the revenue of the government. The old revenue system, which revolved round the zamindar, came to an end. A new class of zamindar emerged, who was bound by strong ties of interest to the ruling power. The zamindar became the owners of the land, and the cultivators became only the rent-paying tenants and subject to eviction. Under the Mahalwari and Rayatwari systems, although Rayats theoretically became the owners of land, but their right on land was doubtful. The tenant remained the perpetual fear of the zamindar, the lambardar, that is powerful families of zamindar of the village revenue estate, and the tax collector. Moreover, many of the zamindar, being unable to become punctual tax collectors, leased their lands. The permanent settlement had prohibited the zamindar from giving any lease more than 12 years. But the restriction was abolished in 1812, and sub-infeudation was carried to the furthest limit. The fragmentation of lands led to the growth of uneconomic holdings. Many of the zamindar were sympathetic to their tenants and granted takvi loans to the latter. But the pressure of the new revenue demand made it impossible for them to continue the practice. Henceforth, a new class, moneylenders or Mahajan, appeared in the countryside, and the poor peasants fell into their clutches. The peasant had to lose his land to the Mahajan when he failed to return the money with interest. By the middle of the 19th century, the Mahajan became as important as the landlord. The agrarian setup in 1793 is best described in the words by Ilbert. The legislation of 1793 left the Rayat's right outstanding and undefined, and by so leaving them, it tended to obscure them, to efface them, in many cases to destroy them. The Mahalwari or Rayatwari system improved the position of the Rayats by making them the owners of the land, but for all practical purpose, their right on lands was uncertain and undefined. The decline of indigenous industries led people to fall back upon agriculture for their livelihood. With primitive tools in the hands of the peasants for cultivation and the government making no efforts to improve agriculture, a rapid degeneration of agriculture became visible. As the British hold widened over large areas, a corresponding improvement of agriculture had not taken place. The most important result of the new revenue settlements was the creation of a new form of private property which benefited the government. Land was now made saleable and mortgageable. The British, by making land a commodity which could be freely bought and sold, introduced a fundamental change in the existing land systems of the country. The stability and the continuity of the Indian village were shaken. In fact, the entire structure of rural society began to break up. I believe you got it correctly, and if so, please like, share and subscribe the channel, press the bell icon for updates and give your comment on it. So, this is for the day. Thank you.